The purpose of this tutorial is to show how to take, and I've got 7 different transactions here, and to write the journal entries for them, and then to take those entries and post them to the ledger. So the first one says, and this is a business, this business makes signs. They completed a sign for ABC Retailer for cash. So it's going to be, there's going to be a debit to bank for $300 plus HST. So there's going to be a debit to bank, and we'll get the amount in a moment. There's also going to be a revenue, and that would be $300. And then there's also going to be HST payable. Now the HST payable would be HST on $300. So this is what we would do to figure out that amount, and the HST is 13% in the province of Ontario. And so we would take our calculator and take 300 and multiply it by 0.13. And so that's $39. So the HST payable would be $39. Now, so the retailer would actually charge this company, the ABC retailer, 300 plus 39. So that's how much is going to go as a debit to bank. Remember, the company is keeping the HST payable, the $39, to remit to the government. So they collect $339 and they get to call $300 of it revenue, but that $39 is going to be kept and remitted to the government at a later date. But $339 still goes to the bank because this the sign maker does have the $300 revenue plus the $39 they're keeping to give to the government. And we should put a description down here. Something like complete a sign for ABC Retailer for cash. Next transaction, November 5th, paid wages for previous week of $300. So that would be wages expense. And so it's an expense, so that would be a debit. So we put $300 here. And if we're actually paying them, then that's going to come out of the bank account, $300. And then we need a particular. And so the description might be something like paid wages. That's just a paying of a wages. There's no HST on that. Okay, that's just paying your employees. On November 9th, paid Brushes and Things Company $800 on account. So this sign maker must have bought previously some supplies from this Brushes and Things Company, and they're paying off that account payable. And so we would have an entry something like account payable, Brushes and Things, and so we're paying off this $800, and of course it would have to come out of our bank account if we're actually paying it. So that's why there would be a credit of $800 to the bank account. And then we need a particular, and it might be something like made a payment on that account payable. On the 10th, received payment in full from Canadian Crafters on account for $525.30. So this is a case where we previously made a sale to Canadian Crafters for $525. And now at this point in time, that was on account, so they're actually going to pay off the account payable that they owed us. So they would call it an account payable. This company would call it an account receivable because it's a previous sale that company we made to them, and now they're actually going to pay it. And so since they are now paying this, it would be a debit to bank for us of that $525.30. And so they're giving us the money for this, and so this was an account receivable of ours. And of course that's where account receivable is going down 5, 25, 30, the same amount. They no longer owe us, so we would take that much off that account receivable, and make a particular something like we received that payment on account from them. For November 15th here, we purchased some supplies for $400 plus HST from the business D on account. And so now this is on account, so it does not affect our bank because it's going to be an account payable for us. But our supplies, because we purchased supplies, our supplies would go up to $400. Now, the $400, when we buy the supplies for $400, we are going to have to pay tax on them. It says plus HST. So this would be an example of an HST receivable. We're going to pay tax, and actually let's find what the tax amount would be now. It's $400. So we would do $400 times 0.13. So the tax would be $52. And so we're going to pay that company $52, but this would be an account receivable for us. Sorry, an HST receivable for us. Of $52. Because remember, HST is a personal, not income tax, a personal tax. It's not a business tax. So when businesses pay the HST, they're going to get that money back from the government. Now, this is on account. So it would be an account payable to them. And we're actually paying, of course, the whole $452. We would only credit supplies the amount because the $400, because again, the government's basically going to give us back the $52, so our supplies only went up to $400. We still have to pay that business $452, but supplies would only actually go up the pre-tax amount. November 21st, the owner withdrew $500 cash for personal use. Oh, we need a particular for this, right? So the particular might be something like bought supplies on account from that business. November 21st, the owner withdrew $500 cash. So that would be a drawing. And the drawings would, of course, be $500. Whoops, not $5,000, $500. And a drawings is a debit because capital has a credit balance, so drawing reduces it, so that's why it has to be a debit. And of course, it's coming out of the business's bank account. So bank would be decreased, so a credit to bank for that amount. And in particular might be something like owner withdrew cash. Last one, November 30th, pay the HST owing from October by check. And you're supposed to use the October HST balance. So we would need to find what those balances would be, actually for both the HST payable and receivable. So we could go to the ledger, and actually you could just scroll down, and you're really looking for these two accounts here. So it says on October 31st, the HST payable balance was $380. Now that would be a HST payable is a credit balance, so we would be debiting at $380 to wipe it out. The HST recoverable amount was $65, and that's a debit balance, so we would credit that to $65. Okay, so let's go back to the journal and do both of those. So again, the balance on the HST payable was $380, and that was a credit balance, so we would debit at $380. The HST receivable, I missed a V there. It was a debit balance of $65, so we would credit it to wipe it clean, and the difference is what you either get back or pay to the government. So HST payable is what this company owes to the bank. So notice it's quite a bit bigger than the HST receivable. And so that's why the difference would be, let's get rid of that V, a credit to bank. And so the difference, if we take $380 and subtract $65, that's $315. So the company has to pay the government $315. And so we would put something like remit HSD to government. So that's how you journalize. There's 7 examples of journalizing different transactions. Now we're going to take all of these and post them to the ledger. So let's move over to the ledger and let's scroll up right up to the top. And so now it'd be very convenient to have all those transactions right here so we don't have to keep on flipping back and forth. So I've actually used a little thing in, it's called the snipping tool in Windows 7 to copy all that, so I have it all here. So we would start with, this is of course the month of November, and we're given that the balance forward is $3,155. So this very first transaction was a debit to bank for $339. I'm not going to worry about all the particulars. So the first thing that we would do is a $339 debit to bank. Revenue was $300. A credit to revenue of $300. So we would have to scroll down here and find revenue. And so revenue would be a $300 credit. And I'll show how to get all these balances in a moment. And that was November 3rd. And in that first transaction, we also had HST payable of $39. So we would scroll down here to HST payable again. That was November 3rd. And it was HST payable of $39. And notice that's a credit. So we would put $39 here. So scrolling back up, next one, wages expense, $300. So we would scroll down to wages expense. I think that's right at the very bottom here. And so wages expense, this was November 5th. And wages expense was a $300 debit, so $300 right here. And again, we'll worry about the balances afterwards. And of course, it came out of bank. So that's a $300 credit to bank. So, oh, and I forgot my first date here. So this one we're working on right now is from the 5th. And so it's a credit to bank of $300. Next one, account payable, brush into the things for $800. And also bank was $800. So let's, we're right here at the bank right now. So this is the 9th and a credit to bank of $800. And so we would scroll down to account payable, brushes and things, and this was from November 9th. And we're paying off some of that account payable, $800. And so we would debit this $800. On the 10th, we have a debit to bank of $525.30, so $525.30 here. And then the accounts receivable, Canadian Crafters, they were paying that off. So and this was the 10th. And so accounts receivable normally have a debit balance, so we're crediting. And of course, you can see that from the journal entry. So $525.30. The 15th is when we bought some supplies. So 15th here, and that was a $400 debit to supplies, so we would put $400 right here. HST recoverable, $525, so we need to scroll down to HST recoverable. And that was the 15th again. And that was a $52 debit there. And then the account payable to Business D was $452. And so that was the 15th. $452. Drawings. November 21st was the drawings for $500. So and it was a $500 debit, and then of course there's also the $500 credit to bank. And one more, HST payable from the 30th. So this is when we did the remitting to the government. So this is from the 30th. And HST payable was a $380 credit, so $380 here. And the HST recoverable from the 30th, it was credited $65, so $65 there. And then of course we have the $315 credit to bank. So this is from the 30, $315, and that should all be all the transactions entered in the journal. Now, in order to get the balances, you always have to think about, is this a debit balance account or a credit balance account? So assets like bank account are debit balances. So we started, or this was the balance forward from the previous month of $3,155. So that's just the number that's entered in there. So to get the new balance, and use formulas, okay, so type an equal sign, click on this cell, and equals, and so this amount, I think this is what I missed, plus that debit and minus this credit, and hit enter. And so this new balance has taken this number, okay, which is the H7 number, and added the F8 number and subtracted, there's no number there, but I'm actually trying to create a formula. As you see, that formula there now, if I put my cursor on this bottom right hand corner, it'll actually, and drag, and I'll just do it one cell right now, then this new balance here comes from taking the $34.94 and subtracting 300. You're supposed to subtract the credits from a debit balance account. And so that's what that formula says. It's the H8 number plus the F9 number. There's nothing there, but that's okay. And then minus the 300, the G9 number, to get that. And so what we can do is actually put the cursor there and click and drag right down the rest. So this new amount comes from taking the $31.94 and subtracting the 800 to give you $23.94. And then we add $525 to get this number. And we subtract 500 to get this number, and subtract $315 to get this number. And so that one formula, just clicking and dragging, actually does all that computation for you. As long as you get the formula right first, then you're okay. So this one here, now I've only got one number, so what I might do here is just go equals, and then, now I can't actually click because of where the formula is, but that would be the H23 number, so I could actually type H23, and I would be subtracting this number. Now, if I had more entries, I would be adding in the debits, but I didn't bother because I only just have the one credit there to subtract. And so, for this one, we could go equals, and that's the H32 number. And we would add to that this debit because this is an asset. Okay, so our supplies have gone up $400. So for this one, it would be this number minus, oh, this is account payable, plus the 452. We owed this account payable $12.90, and then we bought $452 more worth of stuff, so that's why it's up to $17.42. Another account payable, so we would go equals this one here, and then this one we're paying off. So we would, because this is an account payable, debits reduce it, so we would go minus the 800. For this one here, this is an HST payable, so it's a credit balance account. So it would equals, and we would take this, and for credit balance accounts, credits increase them. So we would subtract this, and I just messed up my formula just a second here. Okay, so we would start with this and go minus the debit, and then plus the credit. And so we could just drag this down to calculate the next balance. Similar with HST recoverable, now that's an asset, so it's a debit balance account. So we would go equals, and this, and I missed the plus again. So this account plus this minus the credit, enter. And so drag it down, and it'll do the next balance for you as well. Nothing changed the capital. Now this one, we could just go equals that amount. Same with the revenue, equals 300. And same here, equals that 300 as well. And that's the last one. Now, good idea to do a check to make sure all the debits and credits are the same. So the top debit here was 339 on the, and that's in cell F8. So we go right to the bottom here. And so equals, and we could do the sum from F8 all the way down to, and the last one here is F95. And hit enter. And so this one here should be the same, but with G. So it would actually be fairly easy to do this. Copy that formula. Oh, I messed up. And we'll just change all the F's to G's. And notice that they are the same. So that's a really good thing. We should do the same thing for the journal back here. Didn't do it earlier. But right at the bottom, bottom here. Let's see now. That was everything from F21. So F21. To, whoops. F and, well, actually, let's just go down to 50 here because that's the last credit. I'll make them the same. So same thing over here. Whoops. But of course, I want to do G because it's in the G column. So let's just change these all to G's. And so 3296.30, 3296.30, so of course they have to be the same. If they aren't, then check out why. So that's pretty much the idea. Oh, I forgot one, page references. Journal. Okay, this is journal page 33. I didn't worry about the page references here. But back on the ledger, these would all be from journal page 33. And so we would just duplicate that all the way down here. Often you'll find that they're from different places, but these are actually all, because I only had a few transactions, then all these would just be from journal page 33. And we would do that all the way down. And that's pretty much it.